So I think if they can get off to a good early game, good first couple of waves, they should be pretty good to take over this game.
I'm keen to see. I'm keen to see if this is going to be as dominant as we've seen in Division 1, or whether or not maybe some of these Division 2 teams may not have the kind of finesse to work it out, because Edge can turn into one of those heroes that eventually she just kind of just becomes a smoke breaker. So very excited to see what Lonely Rock and Roll can do here, and what When Out can do as well.
One thing that is going to be a problem for them is they're going to have to find some route of sustain, whether it be Ancient Enchantress buying it, or this Beastmaster also getting on top of his normal stack of items. Hold on. We're going to see First Blood happening as Wenhao gives over First Blood to Lennifer. Well, that's not what they needed, because this Ench needs to buy a mech, needs to buy Greaves, because you're going to lose a sustain war. Because look at, like, these three heroes are so tanky as a course, but two of them also have easy sources of regen in the midst of the fight. Pudge obviously has massive amounts of tank ability. Nobody on your team naturally buys Spirit Vessel, so you have to try and like keep up with the sustain war, and Nature's Attendants not going to cut it either. They need to try and find some solution down the stretch to actually be able to kill these heroes.
Yeah, so he's going to have to try and turn away his favors from the opening couple of minutes here. It was a nice invade coming in from Poke Gaming as well. They understand that a lot of their heroes are very, very strong. CM and Disruptor are two very, very strong heroes of a 1. Their spells do a lot of damage and have low cooldown. So getting Alon Fur off to a nice little start here on the Pudge is exactly what you need, because he is one of those heroes that you can abuse his item timings, you know, before he's able to get like the Vanguard, before he's able to get towards, you know, maybe he might go like a Radiance this game or something. He can really start to be abused, and, you know, pre-BKB, there's a lot of control he has to deal with. So if they can deal with him early and they can deal the damage to this Pudge, then he may not just be too much of a factor for them.
This early game, we're going to see how things shake out. This mid lane is supposed to be, from what as far as I understand this lane, it's supposed to be DK favorite, but we'll see how things go. Level 1, small KK did go for the Breathe Fire over and above getting Dragon Tail. So we'll see if this ends up... By level 2, we should get the... Actually, level 2 doesn't get Dragon Tail at all. Goes for the Dragon's Blood. All right. Maybe he's just doing this for the first couple of waves, so he's somewhat immune to the initial harass from the puck. But overall, it should be perfectly fine here.
Yeah, it should be fine with it. You know, usually sometimes you see these Dragonites, as you say, get the Dragon Tail early, you just Dragon Tail the puck, and because he only has 1 armor, like, if you get a few free right clicks out off on the puck, then that's when he's about half HP and can't play around with things like the Waning Rift. So... This mid lane is probably going to be pretty straightforward until somebody gets a rotation. There is some pretty decent rotating heroes from Poke. They don't really want to leave their lanes all too early, though, so it could be a little bit annoying. Whereas you can see Wenhao, if he's able to get a few levels, get a good creep, this could be a free kill. Oh, why?
Oh, top lane, free kill. Speaking of, it's going to be happening in favor of this Pudge, as Lennifer gets a second kill available for this game. Wenhao went a little bit too far to try and look for revenge. No. And unfortunately, the older dodge about digging 2 graves does apply, and they end up losing both heroes. Bottom lane, they're looking for some quick revenge onto the Clockwork, and they do manage to kill him. Big Killer and Aaron comboing up together. Big Cat actually has to watch himself here. Could be in a mortal situation if Killer does decide to bounce in onto him underneath the tier 1 tower. But they get 2 kills, and you said that you wanted a good start for the Pudge. This is even better. Involved in 3 kills early on in the game like this feels very good to be Lennifer.
Yeah, it is. It's a scary little start here for Longfur, right? Like, he's getting very, very close to, you know, he's about 800 gold away from a Vanguard. Then YYY is going to have some issues being able to deal with him. He's gone for the ball early on because I think he realizes that maybe he might have to fall back to the jungle a lot sooner than what he would hoped for. And this is kind of, I think, the reason why that Poke wanted to go for this Pudge Crystal Maiden combination, because not only does the CM deal with the summons, because she can frostbite them and kill off any of the creeps that they have, but the CM Pudge combination is so strong because you just frostbite, or you can even just Crystal Nova, and then if you hit a hook, then somebody is going to die because they do an overwhelming amount of magic damage early on, and just enables this Pudge to get the snowball going. So this is something that Poke are going to play in the future. It could be pretty scary.
Down bottom, some scary things end up happening to the Doombringer as Killer find himself trapped inside these power cogs. Right click down after a couple of raises from Big Can. All right, feels good to be the SF in that situation. And they kind of need this SF to do a lot better. Top lane, they're not going to be able to get a kill off the back of this combination because Enchantress does zone them back, but there's so much more kill threat on that side of the map. And this is a problem. Like, the SF is their main source of damage as the game goes longer and longer, so they kind of need him to be doing well wasn't doing that well in the CS department. Got a lot of space off that prior kill. So Lanfa in the top lane, I think they'll be hoping to try and get another kill between himself and Ranfu as soon as humanly possible. So just keep the acceleration going for the Pudge. Is this one of these games where the Pudge should just be going for Aghanim Scepter ASAP, or are we envisioning a different item build coming out from Lanfa?
Yeah, he probably will. It'll probably just be some stock standard stuff from Longfur, right? Like, you'll go Vanguard into, like, an Aghanim Scepter. Like, you could try and go Radiance, but I feel like these days the Aghanim Scepter is just Radiance on steroids, and it just does so much better for you in these team fights to be able to abuse the rot radius that it gives you and just makes you this kind of unkillable tank, because you get so many stats from it, so much HP. Oh, no. Oh, he's dead as well.
Yeah, he's definitely dead to right, being slowed down by the shot. They don't even need to commit the hook for this. So that means that they still have it in reserve if they want to use it onto Wenhao. And Wenhao gets frostbitten up. Might end up dying here, but the boar slow does its work to ensure that he's able to escape away from the situation. Nonetheless, though, even though they get the counter kill onto this Crystal Maiden, that's another death onto this Beastmaster. Yet more credit in the bank for the Pudge. Has Vanguard building into the phase boots, so feeling very good. You know who's not feeling good though, Fluke? Right now, who is not feeling good is Real in the mid lane. He's getting crushed, dude. And Small KKK didn't even bother going for the Dragon Tail. He's doing this 2-0-3, man. This is just pure outskill in the mid lane.
Yeah, I really wasn't paying that much attention to the CS charts, but yeah, he really is, right? Like, you know, we talked about the fact that this is like Dragonite favored, but I don't think it's like 80 to 20 Dragonite favored, right? And now there's a rotation towards top. Longfur, I think he's gone a little bit too deep.
Let's see if they can bring him down here. Fairly chunky boy, but they do have access to the impetus. And between the three heroes, they have access to the necessary damage. So they find themselves the kill. That does mean that the Shadow Fiend has to play alone down bottom for a little bit of time. But nonetheless, they're just happy to be able to slow down Longfur by any means necessary here in the early game. And sadly, they can't take the option of just quickly rotating this Puck over. Puck isn't even level 6 just yet. And if he tries to leave right now, then DK gets to apply some damage for free onto the tier 1 tower. So really good job being done in this mid lane. Although sometimes the kills come to you and life just becomes a lot easier. And Real will be experiencing these joys of life. Getting a quick CM kill brought to you by Bocchi and the boys. Okay, that feels good.
Yeah, just being able to... They just constantly get the pressure on Ranfu Dao, and he couldn't safely, you know, be able to circle back. But oh no, big can.
Oh, no.
Okay,
Killer.
He turns back around on the Killer.
He went too far. He was hoping to try and get him down by just sheer right clicks. But if you look at the skill build he's gone for, he is 2 and 3. Doesn't have access to the Doom just yet. So a little bit optimistic down in that bottom lane about the prospects of killing a Shadow Fiend. Like, this hero, surprisingly enough, even in the early portion of the game, can just stand his ground and just outlay a ton of damage onto you.
And that's something I was just about to talk about, right? I was questioning about what time that Bocchi was going to go towards the top lane to try and get that kill onto Longfur. He kind of had his hand played because Longfur was directly underneath the tier 1 tower, so it was too good to pass up. Because once Shadow Fiend gets towards this point where he has a couple of levels in the Razors, like, the Disruptor can try and abuse him, but as long as he's not, like, walking too far away from his tower or walking too far close, then it's going to be too hard for them to glimpse.
Okay, they're going to try and make a quick move onto this mid lane as Small KKK got caught in by the Dream Coil just as this Puck hit level 6. They glimpse back the Shadow Fiends, but he's actually going to prefer that. Get to participate in the kill, go right back into the jungle. Good times. I must say, though, that move was super sick from Real. What they were doing is they're farming this camp. He's underneath an Observer Ward, and he literally goes with the Illusory Orb just as he hits 6 to try and catch this DK underneath the tower. Really well done. Bocchi's been setting up so many kills. He's going to try to set up another in the top lane. Power Cogs come out. They're putting out this damage onto this Pudge. They do not have access to the Primal Roar, but we'll see if they have enough right-click damage between the Enchantress and a couple extra heroes. They bring in reinforcements from Real, and that's going to be his successful rotation. Ranfu Dao, I don't think you're going to be escaping this one, my friend. Try to get the Frostbite and potentially the kill onto Bocchi, but it's definitely going to cost his life. Gets brought down, giving a killing spree over towards this Puck. So the laning phase might not have been going well, but these last 90 seconds have been phenomenal for the Puck player.
Yeah, this is a big props here to Lonely Rock and Roll. I think the way that they've been playing a lot of these lanes has been really, really good. Their rotations have been strong. Clockwork and Enchantress are 2 heroes that can kind of just play on the map now. You've got a Shadow Fiend who's going to be self-sufficient. He's just going to want to try and hit some creeps. He'll make the rotation towards the bottom side to make sure that Killer just doesn't get a free tower. But they know that now that a lot of the emphasis is going to be towards getting this mid-tier 1 tower down as fast as possible. because Poke want to try and unlock their Dragonite once he gets towards his Blink Dagger, and if they can get that tower early on, he can just farm the jungle and be safe about it. So they're really starting to amend some of the issues they had early on. Lonver has died twice in a row now in that last fight. He didn't wait long enough to wait for the battery assault to be out because there was more TP rotations coming in, and maybe he hoped that he could get a little bit of lifesteal from the Dismember, but wasn't enough for him. He goes down, and now it's really starting to... momentum is swinging back towards Lonely Rock and Roll. And I want to see, once we start getting this Doom unlocked here for Killer, last time that we saw him play this Doom as well, he's played a lot of it. He is a very, very greedy Doom player. Doesn't get the Doom early on until he can see a kill open up. So once that Doom is unlocked, I would like to see them make a rotation towards Real and get that kill.
Well, no rotations just yet from Real. He wants to finish off some farm in the mid lane. They lose Clockwork in the top side of the map, but it happens. When there's Disruptor, CM Pudge, you are going to die if you ever get scouted out. Somebody had to give the information for the team. This does mean that they have an option to maybe come towards that side of the map, but looks like everyone wants to finish up some next items. Big Can down bottom is still farming up. Just picked up his Mask of Madness. In the top lane, yeah, the tower's under pressure, but they don't push the fastest on the side of Poke Gaming unless the DK is right there. So Small KK, if he's not around, he's just chilling, still in the mid lane. Speaking of the DK, actually, what are you an enjoyer of in terms of the builds? Because we see a lot of them, like some version of Blink into BKB. Sometimes they go for the Midas immediately, straight into the Aghanim Scepter, then the Manta style. What kind of game is this, do you think, for Small KK?
I think it's a pretty stock standard game for Small KK. The fact that he just needs to go Blink, BKB, and then probably just into an Aghanim Scepter, right? I don't think you need to be all too flashy. You got a decent amount of lockdown to be able to keep the puck in place when you need to. You need to just kind of be this tanky hero that can deal a bit of right click. So if you go in towards the Aghanim Scepter, you don't have to worry too much about the Shadowfiend Magic build, and you can kind of just be tanky and deal with these heroes. Maybe we might see along the lines of like a Silver Edge for them, but I don't know.
Top lane. They're trying to go onto this Pudge. Lunfer might actually die to the Warpine Raider and Wild Axes. He's gone, and they still have a rotation coming in. Several heroes are making their way here from the smoke gank. They're not going to find the Pudge that they were hoping to find, but he's already dead, so they feel good about this one. But Bocce still looking for more, trying to find the angle for a potential hook shot. They missed out on vision, but they might find an even better prize here as the DK goes into his ultimate. So not an easy target by any stretch of the imagination. They're going to go onto him. He's inside the power cogs. They still have access to the Dream Coil to hold him in position. They can, though. It's not nearby. There's a Static Storm catching out onto two heroes. Both supports are going to be in danger, but they're going to supply enough damage to bring down the DK. Both of them do die in the process, but the big prize is this Dragonite. Can they catch the puck? Oh, no, Killer. He gets access to the Tumbler's Toy. They're good forward. They catch the puck before he can jaunt away. So this should be a death onto the puck as well. Double kill for Killer as he shows up to help his team salvage the fight. So although they get the DK, it's so expensive, Luke. That was not worth it at the end of the day for Lonely Rock and Roll.
Yeah, the fact that Killer's able to get a lot more gold into his pocket as well. He's very close to a BKB early on. Isn't going to go in towards that Blink Dagger to try and catch out the puck. So he's going to try and rely on his Disruptor to do that for him in the early game until he does pick up that Blink. But it's kind of what I said, right? I wanted to see Killer make that rotation as soon as he gets Doom, and he was able to meander his way towards the top lane, secure themselves a puck kill. That was within inches of it not being a puck kill, right? Like Real was able to get their Lucio all about. Maybe if he jaunted a little bit earlier, he wouldn't have been doomed. But either way, Killer picks up a nice little kill there onto the puck. He's very, very big. He's the biggest hero in the game right now, 7.5k net worth on the Doom. And within a minute or two, he's going to have this BKB, and nobody's going to touch the Doom. And that could be a little bit rough for Lonely Rock and Roll, that they have to deal with this BKB Doom, but he's not going to do a crazy amount of damage. So as long as Real can keep his distance and make sure he doesn't get doomed early on, then these fights could be relatively okay for them.
Trying to force a fight here in this mid lane. Hookshot misses from Bocce, but here's the TP rotations coming in. They're looking for initiation. Blink initiation going out onto the Shadow Fiend. They also managed to get the root down with the silence going onto this Disruptor. So they get the kill onto Clockwork, but it does cost both supports at the exact same time. Puck doing a great job blocking down this Raptor. And now though the fight's been split up into two directions. Blink forward still from the DK going onto Wen Hao. And right behind the tier 1 tower is this Enchantress, but she does manage to dodge away this hook. Not going to get held in position. Real comes in from the north side of the fight as well, applying damage towards this Pudge. And with Big Can posturing in front of the tier 1 tower, they actually might re-engage here. Primal Roar onto the DK. They don't have the Requiem follow-up though. They already utilized it earlier in the fight. So they have to retreat back in front of the tier 1 tower. They get a glimpse back onto the Beastmaster. Here comes Lanfur. They get the kill. However, half the HP pool already gone away from Lanfur. Killer inside the Parkour, but he activates the BKB, newly delivered. Unfortunately, there's so much right-click damage from Big Can, but they can't get the kill. Freezing Field emerges from Ranfur down. He knows there's no ways to cancel this. And cancel the SF's life with the ultimate. It takes his as well, but who the hell cares? When how the lone survivor of this fight. But Poke Gaming will fix that small issue. A small KK gets himself a triple kill. What a way to reveal your Blink Dagger in that fight. What a way to reveal your BKB for Doom. Everything coming up Poke in this mid-game engagement.
Yeah, that was a long engagement, and that really favors Poke, right? Because they're the ones that have things like Glimpse, they have a Crystal Maiden who can do a whole lot, the Pudge as well, as long as he has people close to him, he can deal the damage. And yeah, it was a little bit overzealous, I think, from Lonely Rock and Roll. They really wanted to try to abuse the Beastmaster when he came in with the Roar, but they just didn't have the follow-up with things like the Dream Call and the Requiem, so they couldn't get that combination going, and you can already see the issues they have with damage, right? Like, it's so hard for them to bring down Killer. He just walks in with his BKB. A lot of that damage gets mitigated. He just walks in, walks away, pops a stick, and feels good about it. So now we're looking at Poke, who started out the early game very, very strong. They lost a few kills, and now they've come in with a nice little mid-game engagement of a lot of their, off the back of a lot of their item timings, and now they're looking really, really good. They have lost a lot of their tier 1 towers and haven't really claimed many for themselves, though. So I'd like to see them try and transition a lot of this into objectives. They're getting close to a big item spike for Lanfur. Once he picks up that Aghanim Scepter, he's going to be very, very scary, and I think that's when it's going to be go time for them. But now Poker more than happy to just sit back for a little bit.
We saw the odds there from esportsbet.io starting to shift quite rapidly in favor of Poke Gaming. 6-1 odds. So they really are up against it right now on the side of Lonely Rock and Roll. But they can still make magic happen. We see this Clockwork realizing part of the problem. You were mentioning how good they are playing this long, drawn-out, sustained team fight on the side of Poke Gaming. And Bocce's like, well, we need Spirit Vessel, gang. We cannot play these fights without it. Nobody else on the team is going to get this early, so I'll take on this responsibility myself. Definitely a much needed item in the situation. And Big Can also going for the BKB. It's not going to give him the damage, but at least it gives him more presence in the midst of these team fights.
Yeah, I think the big thing is they know that the Aghanim Scepter should be coming in maybe like another 5-10 minutes, so they want to make sure that they can hit their own overtime timings to deal with that. Spirit Vessel is a good one to be able to take down the Pudge early on, and obviously the BKB for Big Can to be able to stand and deal the damage. So Poker are going to hit some item timings, and if they can stop this, Roche could be big for them.
So they have
fast though with the DD.
DD Rune, Presence of the Dark Lord, as well as the Inner Beast Aura. I think the Disruptor knows about this. He's picking out the area, but it's too late. They've covered the angles. I don't think they'll be able to stop this. So this is pretty huge. They pick up an Aegis for themselves. This helps them recover this portion of the game, right? Because now Poke can't play aggressively into this Aegis. They're just going to have to sit back, continue with their own farm, get their Aghanims on the Pudge. So that gives them time to pick up this Blink Dagger on Puck and the BKB for this young SF. I'm still surprised we haven't seen the Helm on the Dominator just yet, but why? It was a rough laning phase. We'll give him a pass on this one.
Yeah, he's had a little bit of, a rough goal, but now he's had a little bit of time to play around. The Helm of the Overlord is coming out now, so they're going to have probably, some of these Ancients to be able to play with. I don't think Poker all too worried about the Aegis. They probably would have liked to have spent these next couple of minutes taking some tier 1 towers, probably that tier 1 tower top, so they can shut down this triangle, but they're kind of okay with farming, right? Like, because Killer's got a Midas, like, Pudge still hasn't hit the Aghanim Scepter just yet. He's about, 1,400 gold away from that. Dragonite's getting close to his Manta style, so they're more than happy to kind of sit back for a little bit. This Aegis is more so, it allows Lonely Rock and Roll to kind of play like they are now, right? Like, if they get a few kills on some of these farming cores, then Poke are going to start to feel the sweat a little bit, especially if, somebody big like Killer goes down. It could be a lot of gold that goes into the hands of Lonely Rock and Roll.
Speaking of Killer, they had a gank attempt lined up for him. 3 heroes were smoked in his direction. They had a Hawk that was outlining his position. But unfortunately, he has one of the silliest neutral items in the game of Dota, sitting with the Tumbler's Toy. Please get this out of my game. Like, these free... Dude, I actually can't stand these free movement neutral items. What is this? How many times have we seen this be value this game? Like, it got them out of trouble. It helped me kill a puck. No, please. This is too good.
Very true. Are you a fan of neutral items in general, or do you just want them all gone?
I'm ambivalent to a lot of the neutral items. Some of them are just like way too busted. It's like, how is this allowed in the game of Dota? Like he has Blink Tumblers to it, and this is ridiculous. This shouldn't be allowed. Things like Philosopher's Stone probably shouldn't be allowed either. A lot of them are fine. I'm like, okay, I can see the value in this being in the game, but some of them are just way too good. Like, oh, a Philosopher's Stone, great. Thanks for demonstrating, PK. Wonderful.
Just
Dude, then they have a Disruptor on their team. Oh my God, Disruptor with Philosopher's Stone. Do you know how many games I've lost playing up against this? Like, our team has some CM, she has 0 net worth. They have a Disruptor who gets like Ags at 25 minutes, and you're just like, oh God, this game is so difficult now.
Yeah, sometimes there are a lot of neutral items where you just go, yeah, this is the source. This is exactly what I wanted, and it feels pretty good to be able to win that neutral item RNG. But right now they are winning out in the net worth as well, so these neutral items might not be any too much of a factor very, very soon, especially with Killer now having his own Blink Dagger. He's got the Wall Stomp available too, so that Blink stun initiation, it's very, very easy to hit the Dooms now that he has this the Wall Stomp. So blink in, catch the SF, Doom him before he gets his BKB off. It's going to be scary. If he catches the puck, same deal. There's going to be no way for them to Dream Coil out. And with the Aghanim Scepter being picked up, this is a massive timing here for Poke, right? Like, they've got Blink BKB on their Doom. They've got Blink Yasha on their Dragon Knight, so he does a lot of damage in these team fights. And now Aghanim Scepter being built up for Lonfer as well. The only issue is they are playing into an Aegis, so they need to make sure that they don't use everything on this Shadow Fiend for the first life, because he can come back, especially now that he's very, very close to the Blink.
They're going to quickly kill off this Crystal Maiden. She got caught out, hoping for a quick deny. Definitely not going to happen. On the other side, though, they start a fight onto the Pudge. Primal Roll with some right-click damage from the SF. There's going to be some power cogs as well to hold him in position. But the Static Storm with the kinetic field, so good. It enables Killer to jump in with the Scorched Earth directly onto this SF. And that was just life number 1. He gets doomed up on life number 2, so there's no Requiem for you to follow up with. They've lost out the Pudge. They've lost the support Crystal Maiden. But they are getting the big prize here. Real, unfortunately, doesn't do enough damage to solo zone back these strength cores, but does do enough to threaten the life of the Disruptor. And Bocce, he reserved the hookshot, comes back in onto small KK, and they manage to kill him off. All right, they start a fight in 2 separate parts of the map, and they manage to come away with some huge kills on the side here of the Lonely Rock and Roll. What a buyback from the Clockwork. He dies early in the fight, but Bocce comes back. He knows he still has the hookshot in reserve, so he can use that to set up for the kill onto the DK.
Yeah, big to be able to clean up small KK there. I thought maybe he might have been able to slink away, but this is kind of what I talked about, right? Like, you can fight in towards the Aegis, but you still have to you have to utilize one of your big spells to be able to deal with him. And they utilized the Static Storm that time around, and then they had to utilize the Doom to be able to finish him off, and that just meant that Real had a free time. Didn't get caught in the Static Field, didn't get caught from the Doom, doesn't have to worry about the Frostbite, doesn't have to worry about being bitten either from the Dismember. So they were just able to give Real a really, really good team fight where this puck is untouchable. And this is where it starts to get scary when you're on the side of Poke, right? Like, you have these ways of dealing with the puck, but I've seen so many different times where people are like, oh, I can deal with the puck. And then he just outplays so many of these different heroes, right? Like the Doom, he has to blink Hoof Stomp, and now that he's getting close to a Lincoln Sphere, he's going to have some other way of popping the Lincolns. Like, Aaron's going to be very, very hard for him to catch a Static Storm Kinetic Field combo into the puck. And same thing with, like, the Pudge as well as the Crystal Maiden. They have these point target abilities that are very, very telegraphed, and I'm sure that Real has been very, very well versed in a lot of these animations, and it's going to be way too hard for them to catch. Maybe if they link up with like small KK coming in, getting a Blink Dragon Tail, they Static Storm on top of him, then they blow him up. Could be a good way to kill the puck, but it's hard once again. You know, trying to fight these multi-cores, you need to try and figure out which one of these spells is going to be utilized for which one of these cores, and the kind of sequencing that you want in these team fights to take them down. Because if you take down the Shadow Fiend too early, puck can still run rampant, and kind of vice versa for the Shadow Fiend, right? So
yep,
hard task.
They've just hit a nice little levels peak as well. As after that fight, we got the level 15 for Real, so a lot more magic damage coming out there as well. Let's see how Poke Gaming want to approach the next few minutes. For now, they've come across this Clockwork. They hook him back. However, this might not be the hook you're looking for. They realize this themselves as well. They're like, yeah, Lonfer, get the hell out, my friend. He's being slowed up right now. Real might want the smoke. He gets jumped on, though. There's going to be the Doom. There's no Lincoln Sphere to help pop this. What an initiation from Killer. Lonfer will be credited with the kill, but that was all the Doombringer And they're going to keep the chase going. They're going to have Blink Hoof Stomp available again in 3 seconds. They initiate with the Blink Dragon Tail stun onto the Clockwork. And Nachi going to find himself getting brought down here. They tried to zone them back with the Requiem, hoping the Fear would offer salvation, but they can a little bit too far away. So a double kill for Lonfer. Okay, that is, you were talking about how difficult it's going to be for them to dodge that initiation, and Killer demonstrates just how good the Blink Hoof Stop can be, especially pre-Lincoln Sphere for the puck.
Yeah, that's a big thing, right? It's pre-Lincoln Sphere. You know, once the Lincoln Sphere is up for real, then that initiation is not going to happen. They're going to have to try and combine their spells to be able to get those kills. So maybe, you know, if Killer and Small KK are on the same page, then you can see that that fight going their way. But there was just a little bit of over-aggression coming in from Lonely Rock and Roll. Like, they wanted to keep the pressure going. They saw that Lonfer was kind of getting a little bit caught out of position, but didn't know where the rest of Poke were, and they just stood up on the high ground, and Killer found his opportunity, and he jumped on top of it. And that's exactly what you want from your offlaner, to be able to jump on these opportunities to come in and catch any of these cores that are going to get caught out. And now that he's getting close towards his Octarine core as well, he's going to be a very, very hard hero to deal with, because Doom loves getting a lot of net worth, right? Like, he has a lot of good items, and once he gets his Octarine core, he's going to be tanky, he's going to have a relatively low cooldown on the Doom. And then he may even just, you know, set his attention on some of the supports, maybe even set some attention onto YYY, right? Where he just goes in the background. You don't roar anybody, because Lonfer has had a lot of issues with this Beastmaster in this game, and if you take out the Primal Roar, then maybe it just allows Lonfer to walk around these fights a little bit easier, a little bit freer, that he can start to deal damage on the Pudge, because from the start he's had a bit of a rough mid-game, right? Like, he really hasn't been able to take over the game. It's been off the back of Killer and Small KK.
It's going to get a bit easier for him now, though. He is picking up the Shiva's Guard. That's going to supply him with the much-needed armor up against Big Can. I must say, Big Can has a difficult time this game, having to choose what itemization to go for. He's going for this Daedalus build over and above having Silver Edge, but it's rough. Like, Break feels very good for the game, but you also just need that out-and-out big punch of damage. We might see them supply this punch throughout the mid lane here as they go in. There's a hook shot onto this punch. Beautiful Requiem. It catches Killer before he can get off the Doom. Oh, no. Big Can with the big plays, but now here comes the jump. They get on top of the Beastmaster, but BKB immediately popped in by the Shadow Fiend, trying to make sure that they can kill the CM during the freezing field, and they will be able to do so. Dream Coil on the one only, but the Pudge won't be able to last long in this fight either. Will be a buyback from the Crystal Maiden. Run for it down with the Frostbite and more right-click damage from Small KK, able to bring down the Shadow Fiend. They also managed to take out the Clockwork as well, as this buyback seeming to come in clutch from the side of Poke Gaming. Only Real is left. And the Real won't be caught out. Small KK realizes he does not have the tools to long-term lock down this puck. So it ends up being a 4-for-4 in the mid lane, but Poke Gaming required a buyback to find parity on that one.
Yeah, Small KK is still trying to push this mid lane, and Real's trying to do his best to come out on this. Does have the Lincoln Sphere here, so it's going to be very, very hard for Ramfu Dow to get this Frostbite going. He bought back in this last fight as well, so he has to be very, very careful. Killer's here. They can pop the Lincolns.
They can indeed. Small KK gonna come back to help clean this one up as well. Killer gets the kill. A little bit over-aggressive from the puck. That's actually very funny, because the second time he dies in pretty much the same area to pretty much the same combination of spells. Obviously, they had to wait for the Doom to get back, but Killer will take it. And that turns into a sort of elongated team fight that results in a team wipe. That's not what they needed on the side of Lonely Rock and Roll. Oh man, that fight, it could have been so good. But Puck getting caught out now. Look how much damage was also done to the tier 2 tower.
Yeah, and that's kind of the power of having Small KK have such a good game, right? Like, he has, I would kind of say, been playing, you know, unfoldable this time around. He's been playing really, really well in the Dragonite. Usually when we see Small KK, he's been playing things like the Storm and the Leshrac, and that's where he's really able to take over games. But this Dragonite has been a performance to watch.
Yeah. He's getting the splash damage onto two heroes. Oh no. The power cogs. Who's trapped where? Bocce ends up dooming both himself as well as the Enchantress of Wen Hao. Well, that's not what they needed. Killer happy to just jump in there. You see the splash damage coming in from this DK. Way too much damage in too short of a time. And because of these deaths, both of them without buyback, Poke Gaming have a date with the big man as they head into the Roshan pit. Trying to get the Aegis free shot as well. Dude, he just got like so many items on DK. Giving him the shot too feels very, very good for a game like this.
Yeah, gonna have that Dragon's Breath or the fireball is going to be insane. But Aaron, he's one that's caught out.
Oh, wow. Big Ken actually able to bring him down, but it might cost his own life. He's not able to get off the BKB just yet, and he doesn't get it off in time. He's been hit up with the hoof stomp. He finally gets off the BKB, but it's too late for him to survive this fight as Small KKK just jumps onto him. Small KK gets the Doom out from Killer as well. They somehow still have this Doom being alive. Nature's attendants are keeping Small KK up. He's turning around with the right clicks onto Big Ken. Big Ken actually gets this kill. And on the other side, although they end up losing the Beastmaster, they are happy to keep extending this fight. Killer goes in, finally able to bring down Big Ken at the very end of this. But the SF survived for so long. Real ending up with a kill onto Ranfu Dao as well. So they've lost 3. They started off the Aegis attempt, and they're not able to find them at the very end. Small KK and the boys looking at this Roshan. He's so low on the HP, but they don't have their SF, so they don't actually have the great damage to bring them down. Let's see, can they stop this, or will they be rewarded with this Aegis? Looks like they're gonna get it. Real getting their full Aegis. Who do they give the shot to? They give it to the Enchantress, potentially. Or they're keeping it for the SF for later.
Probably keeping it for the SF, I think.
Yeah.
Little Friends
I did not expect
kind of
that.
cool. It is kind of cool. So... yeah, that whole fight was something. That was something to watch. I really felt like that Small KK was just going to literally just come in and clean house. He did a lot of work to be able to bring down Big Ken, but lifesteal and Nature's Attendance was all that he needed. That was purely just the lifesteal coming in from Mask of Madness, and as soon as Small KK ran out of the dragon form, I believe he also got a miss uphill as well as the Shadow Fiend was on the stairs for the last right click to kill him.
Oh,
so
no.
There was a few moments where it looked like Small KK, if he was able to get that kill earlier, he still would have lived. Then he was able to turn it back around. We can see here in the replay that Big Ken just walks in, he's able to just delete Aaron. They put all their attention onto Big Ken in the background. Killer didn't have the Doom at the ready though. And you can just see how low he gets, right? Like 300 HP, 70 HP, 50 HP, 30 HP, 10 HP, and then just walks around and is able to lifesteal through it. And the fact that Small KK didn't get to the high ground in the Elder Dragon form meant that he had to walk slowly towards the Shadow Fiend, who was just perfectly kiting him back and forth. I felt like I played League of Legends clip, that one. So space walking back and A-clicking the ground and doing it. So Big Ken, big props for him. Eventually does go down, which is a little sad, but They wrangled back that mid game, which was... I think if they got the Aegis there and poke, they could have just taken the rest of the map.
Yep. They're going to try and initiate a fight right now onto Lanfa. Bachi made the initial jump. And they've got a surprising amount of damage out of this Enchantress. Both supports will find themselves static stormed right now. Small KK jumping in. They want to try and bring down this Clockwork. And the Clock falling low, not dead just yet. In the meantime, though, Killer was trying to make the jump on the other side of the fight. Will end up died, but he does get the Doom off onto Big Ken. But can they keep this fight going? They've just now lost out on the Disruptor as well. Lanfa, he's so low on the HP, doesn't have a BKB to get him out of trouble. So the slows are a little bit too much, and he will end up losing his life. 2 cores down yet again on the side of Poke. Big Ken is starting to come into his own as a major carry here. Between himself and Real, 5,000 damage being dealt out. Maybe actually closer to 6,000 actually. This is starting to look very scary.
Yeah, that fight went surprisingly bad for them. They forced out the BKB on Big Ken early on in that fight. Like, he did not have a BKB, but the issue for me right now is Poke's target prioritization is really starting to fall apart. They're not committing onto kills. They're not going together. Killer was making the attempt on the Big Ken, understanding that he's most of their damage. They catch both the supports and the Static Storm. They don't kill either of them because they split their attention. And then it just gets to a point where they've used all of their big spells and they haven't killed anyone. And if you haven't killed anyone with Static Storm and Doom and using the Elder Dragon form, you're just going to lose this fight because Big Ken will be able to out-sustain you, especially the fact that Lonfer hasn't been a threat at all in this game. So, yeah, Lonely Rock and Roll doing a really, really good job at just reacting to how these team fights are going. And I think an issue for Poke Gaming to try and work out here is they need to understand where they want to go, how they want to go about it, and do it quickly and concisely, because if they're not doing that, then they're having to deal with a Park who's blinking around, doing all this weird and wacky stuff, and now that Poke is starting to fall behind the 8-ball, it's going to get harder and harder for them to find these kills when they get more of these defensive items for Lonely Rock and Roll.
To make matters worse, we got the level 20 talent out of the puck, so even faster access to the Waiting Rift with more damage output. And SF, of course, with both the shard as well as the 20 talent. A ridiculous amount of damage from this man. with BKB, Lincoln Sphere, now suddenly you're no longer afraid of the Doom. So that's the only thing that's been keeping Big Can in check by any stretch of the imagination. And now they're going to smoke up. Let's see where this goes. Blink forward, actually, from Small KK. They still do manage to get the Doom out onto Big Can. At the same time, though, Primal Roar is out. Can they stick on top of this SF and kill him? The Infernal Blade is out. They finally managed to bring him down. Small KK, he's now going to be the king of this fight with him and Killer able to mop up both supports as well. The Primal Roar created a little bit of space, but certainly not enough. Real was not present for that fight. So his team just gets completely rolled over. 4 heroes gone from their side of the map. Small KK playing a daring game with that blink, but understanding the positioning of where Lonely Rock and Roll should be, exploits the timing and is able to get a very massive start to the fight, ensuring that they can get the Doom out onto Big Can.
Yeah, that was beautiful, right? I just criticized a lot of their target prioritization and their lack of communication with each other, but Small KK and Killer just went in. They instantly got the Dragon Tail to stop the Lincoln Sphere, then the Doom came out from Killer, and then they just perfectly, you know, took the rest of the team fight. They separated the Clockwork and the Enchantress. Lonfer was just dismembering the Enchantress. Clockwork got stuck inside the Static Storm combination, and then they just tore apart everybody else. Real, he's in trouble.
He's fine. He's fine. He's chilled.
Okay.
That's something that you were mentioning earlier, that you wanted to see them, once they get the Lincoln Spheres, that's the only real way to get past this defense. And Small KK demonstrates to us exactly how it's supposed to be done. And we're also getting to the problem now where if they can kill the SF at the beginning of the fight, as much as if they lose every fight where SF gets to stand there outlaying damage, it's something we've discussed pretty much from the onset of the drop, that he is their only damage as the game scales later and later. So at this stage of the game, if you lose Big Can, the fight's just over. Like, you have to get out of there. Real cannot solo carry these engagements. It's going to get more difficult now because we do have a full Bloodthorn on the Dragon Knight. There's still BKB Shivas into Aghanim Scepter coming for Killer. And of course, we do have a BKB for Lonfer. So they really are overly reliant on the impact of this Big Can SF. They have to protect them somehow on the side of Lonely Rock and Roll, but it's kind of hard to do. They only have 1 4-star available. Maybe Clockwork should build another one. Bocce does have it in the inventory. They need to do everything in their power to just zone the rest of Poke back. And now Lonfer can just stand pretty. Posture very far forward, 3.4k HP. He knows that they can't burst them anymore, so starting to feel a lot better about this game.
Yeah, and that's something I was going to check in, as well as the 4-star check for the side of Lonely Rock and Roll. As you said, they've only got 1 4-star available to them, so it's hard for them to kite out the side of Poke and try and get themselves into a position where they can regress. The Puck does scale really, really well. Like, once you get like late game Puck, he's a very, very scary hero. But until these BKBs start getting lower, until it starts getting to a point where they can deal with the initial burst, I think if Real has at least 1 or 2 members left alive, maybe it's like the Beastmaster that's still left alive, he can really carry a lot of these team fights, because it's going to be hard for them to kill him. But at the end of the day, as you said, like the physical damage coming in from Big Can is going to be a big reason why they win a lot of these team fights and get through these BKBs. But if Poke are able to close the game out before we can get to a point where the Shadow Fiend's hard to deal with, before, you know, the Puck has things like overwhelming Blink plus Octarine Core plus like a full Revenant's Broach, then that's when it's really going to start getting pretty scary.
Right now, Aaron, just making the trek towards having Aghanim Scepter, 800 gold away from picking up that item. As if Big Can's life is not difficult enough as it is. But it is now 37 minutes into the game. We're getting some tier 4 neutrals. Some pretty decent ones being picked up for both teams. A Spell Prism for Diaside, so I can imagine that going towards this Crystal Maiden, giving it to her. But on Radiant side, Timeless Relic for Puck, man. You know, we were talking about neutral items and how some of them are really, really good. Dude, this is nuts. You already had a quickening. How do you go from Quickening Charm to Timeless Relic? Everything is just coming up too good for Real.
Yeah, feels good, especially now with the full Octarine Core being completed. So he's going to be a menace in these team fights. It already has been a menace in this entire game as well. So a lot of these tier 4 neutral items are coming through and starting to alleviate a bit of the pressure, and even starting to put the pressure back on. I'm interested to see if Small KK has done this on previous Dragonets, but the Octarine Core and the Spell Prism. So he has a very, very small cooldown on his Elder Dragon form. I'm not sure if he has almost 100% uptime on it. He'd be very, very close to it to be able to have it. So he's about like, what, 50%, probably more uptime with the Octarine Core and the Spell Prism. So I thought maybe he might go for something along the lines of like an AC, and they just kind of run around where small KK is literally just all their physical damage, and he just carries the game from there. But looks like he wanted to try and get a little bit more of the Octarine core action, and I don't hate it. I see the idea behind it, but you know, maybe the goal was better spelled elsewhere.
He might literally have just 6-second downtime. We see a jump in. Oh no, Killer. He's inside the meat grinder here. He got Primal rolled up and eating the right clicks from the SF. That's going to be an immediate kill. Buyback comes in as well. Lanfer coming as far forward as humanly possible to try and bring down this Beastmaster. Big Can can't get off the Requiem as Killer jumps directly on top of him, but they also jump directly on top of the puck. Requiem comes in to try and save Real, but it's not going to come out in time as Poke surround him with 3 heroes. We see the influence of Small KK yet again. I think he got the Bloodthorn out earlier on. There's going to be a jump forward looking for this Enchantress. The Ench, she is suffering a lot of damage, and Killer now has found Big Can. Big Can is the big prize, and he should end up losing his life here. Triple kill for Small KK. Somebody stop this DK. He's still jumping forward right now, looking for more. Bocce gets him inside these power cogs, but who's trapped with who right now? Does choose to make the wise decision and flap away from this Enchantress, waiting for reinforcements as Bocce gets hooked back. He goes in with the hook shot onto 2 heroes, interrupting them with the battery assault, but will die without buyback. At the same time, north of the fight, we end up losing Real as well. Got doomed up, got brought down. Big Can brought back, hoping to try and help out as he sees his Enchantress dying in front of his face, and now he's going to be joining her inside the grave as well. The Roar will come up onto the DK, onto the Doom rather, try to provide some space and time, but that space and time will be denied to them. As Small KK is still a little bit too strong in these engagements, he ends up turning it all around. GG, well played is called.